Good evening, Fright fans, and welcome to the Scream Signal podcast, where you can't live with her, but you can't cut her up into tiny pieces and tell the neighbors she moved to Palm Springs either. I'm your co-host, Jeff, and with me are George
Hey, everybody.
and Jeremy.
Hello.
So, Jeremy, if you had to stay in a cabin for the weekend with a famous slasher movie icon, who would you choose?
Well, so thinking about this, obviously I'm not picking any of the killers. Everybody that
Okay.
hangs out with Ash Williams seems to die, so that's a bad choice,
Right.
even if he's a badass. So I think I'd probably go with Sydney Prescott because
Okay.
one, her villains are just humans, so I feel like I got a better chance there if they show up. And in recent movies, her friends all seem to just live, so I feel like I got a
everybody.
good choice there.
It's fair. How about you, George? What do you think?
Yeah, I was trying to think about that. Can I choose the bad guy? What if I choose
Yeah.
Jennifer Tilly? Not even an actress. Well,
You're-
I guess Tiffany,
Oh, you
but
wrote
not
that there, who?
the doll. Jennifer Tilly is my choice.
Yeah,
Oh.
Tiffany Valentine. You know, it's funny. It's funny you bring that up. When I picked this question, that's exactly what I picked. I was like, because I was thinking we were gonna go. I was thinking we were gonna go like slashers. And I knew you guys would be like, well, Jason or Michael Myers or but like you wouldn't want to pick any of those. And I was gonna be like, I would just go with Tiffany Valentine pre-dollification.
Yep,
Because-
exactly.
She's probably gonna kill me, but that's okay.
It
I
would be
mean,
worth
if you go with the TV show, Jennifer Tilly herself comes into it, so you could just pick Jennifer
Oh,
Tilly.
see, I just picked Jennifer Tilly.
It
Yep.
does get a little.
We-
It does
we
get a
love
little
her.
weird and meta in there, especially when you
Real
start
meta.
thinking about how, like, there's the Tiffany Valentine character played by Jennifer Tilly, and then there's actually Jennifer Tilly, and I guess they sort
Yeah.
of exist as two separate entities in the world, which is very weird. So yeah, it gets weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, so in seriousness though, if I were gonna have to pick one, like, because I mean, obviously we have to assume in this case you're not gonna get murdered. They're just gonna hang out with them.
Oh,
I think Jason is my favorite. Always been my favorite, but I don't think he'd be very fun to hang out with.
he'd be shitty
He doesn't
company.
say a lot. Yeah.
Right, so probably Freddy, because I mean at least he would talk to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
He
you would
is
probably
kind of a
crack
creep.
jokes. Yeah, there's a whole, children thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna pick the tall man because he's gonna be really good at carrying in all the luggage and shit. I've seen him lift those
Oh, yeah.
costumes. I don't have to do any
That's true.
work, any manual labor.
Love
It's like you get that shit.
He's gonna be upset though if you turn the air conditioner.
That's true.
Yeah, he will be upset over the cold.
Damn, and I can't.
Plus,
be
you have to deal with his minions too, right? Because they're probably going to be in
the-
the cabin as well.
The
So,
little
yeah.
like dwarf
little-
guys.
yeah, exactly.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. Well, we wanted to kind of kick this episode off with a salute to one of the greatest this week. Unfortunately, I don't know if you guys have all heard, but on July 22nd, we lost the director Chuck Russell. You folks may remember him as the director of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. 1994 is The Mask with Jim Carrey. He did Eraser, Bless the Child, Scorpion King, and most recently in 2024, he did the Witchboard remake. Really hardworking director, turned in some formative movies for all of us, especially with things like Dream Warriors and The Mask. But tonight, specifically in his honor, we wanted to discuss 1988's The Blob, a remake we all think is leagues better than the original.
Mm-hmm.
This one is written by Chuck Russell and the great Frank Darabont, and is starring Kevin Dillon, Shawnee Smith, which you guys might know her from the Saw franchise, if you didn't know her from this, and Donovan Leitch. Brief synopsis, and an easy synopsis for everybody because it's The Blob. A deadly entity crash lands outside of a small town and begins to consume anyone in its path. So, George, tell us a little bit about what you think of 1988's The Blob.
1988's The Blob may be my favorite horror remake, period.
Nice.
This is one that never gets old. I think I first saw it when I was a teen. And I don't know that I really, really loved it then, but watching it over the last decade or so, this movie is fantastic. Great effects. It almost starts off as if it's not really going to do much different than the original Blob, just a updated version.
Mm-hmm.
But in comparison, this goes hard as hell compared to the original Blob. Granted, that was, obviously a product of its time. And this was coming out in the late 80s, but Yeah, this one just holds up extremely well. It feels like a precursor to something like oh god, who was Dean Koontz's Phantoms, because it feels
Okay.
very much in line with that. And
That's good.
one thing that it's always reminded me of was The Stuff, which came out a few years before.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
this time around, I was watching the credits in the very beginning and noticed that the special effects were done by a company called DreamQuest, which I never
Mhm.
heard of before. They were the same special effects company that did the stuff.
Oh,
So it makes complete sense why a lot of these effects remind me of that movie. They're super similar, but this one I feel like goes a lot harder, is a lot gorier overall.
yeah. I
But
think if I remember right, Tony Gardner sort of like spearheaded that. I think he might have been the main guy
uh,
there at Dream. It was at least for this movie. So yeah, he's there's some truly unique and cool stuff with this.
it
What do you
is.
think, Jeremy? What do you think about the Blob?
So I love this movie. Obviously, I think most people that are into horror like this movie a lot.
Mhm.
I guess, when this came out, I would have been very young, so I wouldn't
Mhm.
have been familiar with what was going on at the box office. So, when going back and reading about this, I was really surprised at how big of a flop this was. That it had a $10 million budget, only made 8.2 million in theaters. um, was considered a huge failure at the time and didn't actually receive any sort of um, love until much later. Um, and going back to it as something that I hadn't watched in a while, it was far gorier than I remembered, which was
Oh yeah.
surprising to me because
Super
I had
gory.
always, in my mind, this was The Blob is somewhat that silly, like 1960s movie is kind of what I think of when I think of The Blob more than anything. With um, I just forgot his name, Steve McQueen in the
Yeah,
original.
Steve McQueen.
That's
Yeah.
kind of
Yep.
that's kind of the Blob in my mind usually is like the hokey theme song, the cheesy effects in the theater scene and everything that's so iconic. So going back and watching this again for the first time in a long time, it's a fantastic movie. There's so many just messed up scenes in it, and
Mhm.
there's shocking stuff, like, to go back and watch now where they're like, "Yeah, this kid's missing," and this one girl's saying she watched him disappear, but, like, nobody believes her still. It's weird and, like, yeah, I guess that's a normal reaction, I guess, but it is a lot of fun throughout as well. So I think it's a great movie. Um, it was it Kevin Dillon that plays the main character in
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a great job as the main character, I think, as, Flag is what they call him, I think, throughout. It's
Yeah.
actually his last name
Yeah.
they use for him. Um
I like to think he's the villain from The Stand.
Yeah, no, that's I kept
So
thinking that when I was watching it too.
I was
I was
gonna
like,
say
"Oh,
that's how Darabont got his start, right? Was making King short films, I believe. So I do
yeah,
think that Flag is a direct nod at King here. Yeah.
Probably is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah." So I think it's a good movie. They do kind of mix it up a little bit here with the Blob's origin from the original, which I think does add a more interesting dimension to it. So
Mhm.
I think it's a great movie overall. Big fan of it.
Yeah. So I am positive that I saw this one before I saw the original Blob because this would have been on like HBO or Cinemax or something like when I was growing up. Whereas the '60s Blob, I would have had to have sought that out. Would have been harder for me to find. So this was my first experience, and so I actually think for a long time it took me a while to kind of warm to the '60s version because it's a lot more campy, and I do like that. I do, but that stuff that it came later in life and appreciation for that stuff. Like when I was younger, I was I only wanted the cool like new special effects and all that stuff. And like the special effects, there's just no comparison. The special effects in the '88 Blob are just mine. Sometimes I'm just baffled by how they even pulled them off,
Agreed.
especially in the '80s. I know some of it's pretty simple. It's like essentially like a blanket on like a conveyor belt type thing. They just roll around, and they just happen to just make it look cool. But then there are some things like the kid, like the infamous scene of the kid who's like being like dragged back, and his like face is like being stretched against the like
Hmm.
blob, and you can see it. Like you just look at that and you're like, I just have no idea how you did this, made it look so good. Like it's man, it's really 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 cool. And this is definitely one of those movies where I think the plot's very thin. It's very just monster shows up, moving through town. Kids are trying to escape a monster. Kids are trying to escape deadly government agents or whatever. That's about all there really is to it. But the special effects, the like gore, the tension they managed to pull off are all really cool. It's a damn shame this didn't hit harder in the 80s. I think sometimes they were aiming for like a nostalgia that I don't think people were quite ready, or I don't know if that was quite the mood yet when they were, kind of kicking these off. Which, I mean, sometimes like stuff like Killer Clowns, I don't know how Killer Clowns from Outer Space did when it came out, but that kind of has the same kind of feel, that like small town B movie thing with like 80s special effects. But the Blob is definitely a little. It's more serious, and the special effects would probably go a lot harder than the stuff in. Not to downplay Killer Clowns. Killer Clowns is great, but yeah, this one really, really cool, and it probably does help that we had an early Frank Darabont showing up working on the script.
Yeah, I think the budget there is like between Killer Clowns and this are, it's so significant because you're talking about Killer Clowns was a $2 million budget. This is a $10 million budget. So you do have to kind of expect like a quality of effects there that is higher quality. Looking at the effects company, by the way, this DreamQuest Images, their first movie was Evil Speak in 1981.
Yeah,
Howard movie. And then it's shocking to think that looking at their history here, they went from Evil Speak to the next year doing Blade Runner and One from the Heart by Francis Ford Coppola. So like,
which is insane.
What a giant jump immediately for those two things. Then 83 they did the Twilight Zone the movie and V the TV miniseries and so like this was a company that made like some amazing stuff very quickly. It looks like the lead guy there was Hoyt Yeatman, who went on to work with Jerry Bruckheimer a lot on stuff like Armageddon and Con Air and The Rock. So really good pedigree here for the effects company for sure. Great stuff.
I think that's such a testament to what special effects were like in the 80s and like how that blew up so much, because you would look at this company in the early 80s doing this very cheesy, I'm sure it wasn't direct to video, but it was something I think most people probably saw on video. It was something like Evil Speak, very small movie, very low budget. And then these people would go on to start doing these like big, huge budget, giant things, and like all of these special effects companies where you had these sort of rock star special effects artists like Tom Savini and Greg Nicotero and Rick Baker and all these guys. And, I'm kind of sad. It feels like that era is gone. Like, you definitely don't have just everyday movie fans walking around talking about the special effects artists anymore.
I mean, it 100% is. And that's, I mean, recently there was that, like the big deal that Godzilla -1 won like an Academy Award for its effects, and then like a few months later, despite just making an Academy Award winning movie, the effects company behind it went out of business because there's no money in it, which is
so crazy.
Really, really tragic. And it was like, yeah, these special effects companies they can't make money anymore. There's nothing in it for them. It's horrible. So it really is sad because there's so much skill in this stuff. When you watch it, it's incredible, and it really is like these are the people that make the movie special that you watch, basically. like so much of it is on these people. If you went and watched a Marvel movie without these people, no one would want to see it. So, yeah, it's a damn shame where we're at right now in the industry as a whole, I think, and the amount of work that's being lost and the talent that's being lost, because these people inevitably, when they can't find additional work, they leave for other industries, and the industry is just worse for it as a whole, I think.
Yeah, that's a shame. It is a shame. I do, so if you guys haven't caught the Blob, the 88 remake of the Blob, I highly recommend it. I think it's something you really enjoy. Really cool special effects. I do think there are some moments in it, as much as we've raved about the special effects, I do think there's some moments in it that are behind what we would consider standard now.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of the composite shots don't completely work, but I mean, still, it's so much better than the original. And again, we're not talking crap, but I'm sure we all enjoy the original Blob. It's a cool movie, but this one is a lot more like mature and fun. Or I shouldn't say more fun, but a lot more mature, and like special effects are better and has a little bit more going on in the writing. Or maybe nobody on the cast is quite to the Steve McQueen level, but I don't think Steve McQueen was quite to the Steve McQueen level yet at that point either.
I don't think so. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a great movie, and the effects being like not what we would consider now, I think is actually one of those things that I often feel is missing now, because this would have been like that, not that like blockbuster movie, but that like mid-level movie that doesn't seem to get made anymore. Everything is either low budget or it's a
Right.
blockbuster billion-dollar movie, and this
Yeah.
kind of mid-tier movie doesn't exist anymore, and that's kind of sad, because when you watch this, it is a lot of innovation comes here, and it's great. It's the effects, even when they're not up to like the top quality, they're still super fun and impressive.
And not to do a big detour here because we really wanted to get the word out on the Blob, but one right before we move on, I did want to mention that probably, at least I'm going to guess for us three guys here, I know for Jeremy and I, but I assume this is probably true for George. One of the big, if not the big movie in Chuck Russell's canon that it was so huge for me was Dream Warriors,
Without a
Nightmare on Elm
doubt.
Street. And I would say any day of the week, it's my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I like it better than the original. It's so good. It's so imaginative. It does that special thing where it's a sequel that both honors everything that came before it and amplifies it by expanding the lore rather than like changing things or rehashing things. They really do add a lot of really cool stuff. Man, and just thinking about this guy being at the head of so many big things like Dream Warriors. I mean, again, obviously, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, George. You have something else.
Well, I was gonna say it's not just that, but like, so Chuck Russell made Dream Warriors in '87 and immediately put out the Blob in '88. It was a
Right.
year turnaround, and I think what makes the Blob work so well is what made Dream Warriors work so well. It was the combination of Russell with Darabont again writing the screenplay, and then the special effects for that one was also the same special effects team as the Blob. So it's
There you
like
go.
everything that came together so perfectly for Dream Warriors also really benefited the Blob because they used, all the same people for that production mostly. So,
And I guess when you're really looking at it, going up through his catalog for quite a while, it seems like Russell was sort of on the cutting edge of like special effects stuff.
yeah.
Because excuse me, in '94 he does The Mask, which was one of the first big like fully integrated CG like type things.
Yeah, huge deal that movie was.
Yeah, I remember that being a huge deal. And like you can look at it now, and we can look at it as maybe not quite as funny as it was then, and maybe Jim Carrey doesn't play quite as well as he did then. But that movie was huge. You could not escape it. Like, it has to be the movie that made him the most money, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people to understand how big Jim Carrey was that time if you weren't there. Because, like, this was a movie. The Mask had an $18 million budget and made $352 million.
Jesus Christ.
So you're talking about, like,
that much
this
money.
this is a blockbuster, like, crazy level blockbuster.
It is kind of funny, though, sometimes when you have movies like The Mask that just blow up, and like, $300 million on an $18 million budget.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of other movies, very similar vibes, that just do not make it. And you have to wonder why. Like, why is it?
Carrey was coming off of Ace Ventura. He was super popular. He was coming off of, like, his run on In Living Color. Or was it Living Color he was on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
In Living Color, yep.
So he was coming off of, like, just a insanely popular, like, run of movies, and during this time he put out Ace Ventura, then The Mask, then Dumb and Dumber. Like, he was just on a roll where he was the most popular guy in the world. You couldn't go anywhere without people quoting him, just everywhere.
And it's interesting that we bring this up because I don't want to get too far into Jim Carrey territory, because this is a whole podcast, but it's fine. You guys get we do
love movies of all kinds.
Yeah, we love movies of all kinds, and I like to think stuff like, because The Mask is kind of horror adjacent.
The
like,
comic definitely is.
There's a universe, where that movie's a lot darker, and we could definitely have done that. But I just thought it was interesting as we were talking about Dream Warriors, and we started talking about Jim Carrey's. I know a lot of people really want Jim Carrey to be the new Freddy Krueger, and I've often thought about that. And I don't know, what do you guys think if you had to? Jim Carrey as Freddy Krueger, you think he could do it?
I think he could do it. I don't think he's the right person for it, but I do think he could probably pull it off.
I think he could pull it off. But my take still remains that they should find someone younger, so they're not in the same position they are right now in 10 years. And Jim Carrey, despite being a really talented guy, he is, I assume, in his 60s at this point. I would have to.
Well, here's a hot take. This will be a hot. It's not really hot, but maybe they should just go with somebody like Carrey, who's a proven person, and not make 10 sequels.
I mean, that's possible.
That's fair.
I don't know. I don't know. There's 10 more Friday or for Nightmare on Elm Streets in the tank, so I don't know.
Oh, I mean, there will be if it's successful, and that's the thing. They're gonna, if they hit, they're not gonna stop at one. And then, like, Jim Carrey's 64 and Robert Englund's 79. So, like, how much benefit have you got out of that at that point?
Right, for sure. Yeah, I get your point.
From a financial standpoint of a movie, if I was making this movie, I wouldn't choose him, even though I do think he could do it and would probably be pretty good at it.
This is a tough decision because I think when you look at the other icons, you look at Freddy, you look at Jason, you look at Myers. These are guys in masks that you can put just about anybody in the suit, and and this is not denigrating the acting work of guys like that because it does take special work, but there's no voice or face to those characters that isn't a mask. So when you have somebody like Freddy, who's always been Robert Englund, with the exception of one that we don't like to talk about. And, he is such a huge part of what made that character, popular and memorable. It's going to be so hard to replace him, especially going with somebody who is an unknown person, like a younger unknown person. While I definitely get the financial decision behind that of, we could have this guy around for 10 movies if we need him. It may be a better swing to try to pick somebody that is. Maybe not Jim Carrey. I don't think Jim Carrey would be my first choice.
He would maybe, and then just like even beyond like, so financials always come into movies. We all know that. And right. Jim Carrey's price tag will be high enough that it will it would be prohibitive.
It won't be Jim Carrey unless he just really wants to do the movie.
Yeah.
I also saw them throwing around Kevin Bacon for a while. I think Kevin Bacon could probably do it. I don't know that he'd be the best choice. He'd probably be a lot cheaper than Jim Carrey. I would imagine.
I'm still a fan of the kid from American Horror Story. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, we talked about
Evan
that.
Peters.
I think George
Evan Peters.
That would be
a good one.
Yeah, I don't think if you had said that to me like before the Dahmer show, I don't think I would have bought it. But then the Dahmer show, I was like, okay, this guy's got range I didn't expect. So yeah, I think he would be a pretty good choice. I would accept that. I'd go see that movie.
Yeah, I think you have to find somebody with a distinctive look because Robert Englund has a very distinctive look as well, and I think you need somebody that when you apply the makeup, you can almost still tell their facial features. When you look at Freddy, it's still Robert Englund under that makeup. You know it for sure. So I think it's important.
Right,
but I don't know who they'll choose. I'm excited to find out.
Mic drop Kevin Hart.
Hell yes.
Freddy Krueger.
Hell yeah.
You heard it here first.
The Rock.
The Rock. Kevin Hart and The Rock playing dueling Freddy Kruegers.
Hell yes.
I'd watch it.
But anyhow,
we're going to make a statement about how the order in the Freddy universe is about to change, or whatever the hell he said about DC.
So yeah, R.I.P. Chuck Russell. You turned in some great stuff. We'll definitely miss you, and we'll be watching Dream Warriors and the Blob and the Mask for many, many, many years to come. So you won't be forgotten. So all right, bringing us back around to our ongoing segment here, Televised Terror, where we revisit older, beloved horror television shows, and in our continuing coverage this year of Tales from the Crypt. And this actually is kind of neat because there's some new news this week. So we mentioned the reason we started doing this segment to begin with for Tales from the Crypt was that Tales from the Crypt had come to Shudder streaming, and it's still on Shudder streaming, which you can watch for I think Shudder now is about $10 a month, something like that.
It's like $8 to $10, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, but now the even better news is that Tales from the Crypt has just hit Tubi for free. So if you do not have access to Shudder, like maybe you just didn't want to pay for another streaming service, you can watch it on Tubi now in its entirety, absolutely free. There's going to be ads, but I think Tubi is such a cool resource for film. Even with the ads, there's just so many things, so many weird, oddball things. It is like the heyday of cable, and you could just go around late night and find the weirdest stuff. Like you can just do that on Tubi now. So. Yeah.
It's awesome. And also, if you watch it on your computer and you have an ad blocker, it blocks the ads. So
you didn't hear that here. In case Tubi ever wants to sponsor us, we don't support that. Don't do that.
Yeah, for real.
Because if Tubi wants to sponsor us, we're listening. We're here. Just delete
that ad blocker immediately.
All right. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. What we're gonna do is like we've done before. We're moving into season 3 this week as we've done season 1 and season 2. Now with season 3, much like we did with season 2, we're gonna split it in half. So this episode is gonna cover the first half of season 3, which aired in 1991, and we're gonna do the first 7 episodes, and then we will pick up with the next 7, the last 7, in another episode later on down the line here. So I will go ahead and kick us off with the episode. So much like the last season, and actually, I think it's been kind of a reoccurring theme. When Tales from the Crypt airs, the first night it shows episodes, they showed 3 back to back, and they did that again this year. So with episode 1, we start is Loved to Death. This episode aired June 15th, 1991. Based on Tales from the Crypt number 25 from August of 1951. This one was directed by Tom Mankiewicz and starring Andrew. Was that Mankiewicz?
Mankiewicz. His dad, if you ever get a chance, you should look up his dad. He was one of the screenwriters who was blacklisted during the whole communist thing of the 50s.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Mankiewicz. Sorry, that's a cool tidbit. Starring Andrew McCarthy from all the what his name's escaping me right now.
Wicked Bernie's and Mannequin.
Yeah, Mannequin. But I was thinking he was in Pretty in Pink or 16 Candles, right?
16 Candles, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
So yeah. And Mariel Hemingway. An aspiring screenwriter falls in love with a beautiful actress who won't give him the time of day until his mysterious landlord gives him a love potion. Now she can't get enough of him, literally. So for me, this one I'm going to say is about a 4 out of 5. I think this is kind of quintessential Tales from the Crypt for me, and the reason it's quintessential Tales from the Crypt for me is, I've mentioned this a couple times before, this one I am positive, with no doubts, that my grandmother recorded the first 3 episodes when this aired for me on a VHS, and I had these 3 that I watched all the time because I had it. I remember these first 3 episodes front to back. I could probably recite them without rewatching them because I've just seen them so many times. I think the story here, like the twist, is it's like that quintessential Tales from the Crypt twist. The whole like, be careful what you wish for, or you're going to get what you ask, what you deserve, or whatever. I think there's obvious parallels to this with Obsession. It's a big popular movie right now. I mentioned this when Obsession hit. I was like, oh, it's like that Tales from the Crypt episode. There's actually a couple of Tales from the Crypt episodes. This is like, or Obsession is like. This one is my favorite over the last one that reminded me of it. I've always liked this one a lot because I think Andrew McCarthy is really good in this. I think Mariel Hemingway is really good in this. I think that it's funny without being like slap your knee, like double laughing funny, and it does get to a dark place by the end. There's a lot of stuff I really like this one. But what do you guys think, George? What about you? What do you think about Love to Death?
I like this one. It's got its goofy moments, but by the end, it does turn into a full-on Tales from the Crypt story. Like you were saying, getting everything you wanted and it not being anything like you imagined. Having seen this one before, this was the first time that I realized that the landlord, I guess, is supposed to be Cupid. Is that right? Because he has a conversation with him at one point, and he's like, I'm the only one who has the power to make women fall in love with men. And I'm like, wait, holy shit, he's Cupid. He's got the white hair, or like the blonde hair and everything. Like, and
I don't think I ever put that together. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was watching it like, I think that's where they're going with this. But no, this one's good. McCarthy's great. Hemingway's great. David Hemmings, super good as the very, very creepy landlord. But yeah, this one's just fun all around.
I love the old lady who comes out and is like, "Are you filming one of those like sex movies?" And he's like, "No, it's too bad."
Yeah, it's a wholesome movie. You take your whole family. Oh, too bad.
She was ready for it.
She was. What do you think, Jeremy? What about what do you?
Yeah, I like this episode a lot. It's It's great. I love the awkwardness at the first time he sees her when he's like hiding behind boxes in the basement and she's
Yeah.
just casually taking off her clothes in like the laundry room of this place. Just her character is at first such a shitty, miserable person and like
Mhm.
and you kind of hate her and then he does something so terrible that you almost sympathize with her, and it just the back
Mhm.
and forth of this episode is great in the way you like perceive these characters. I think it does a great job throughout. And the landlord is so creepy. The fact that the neighbor's like, no one's ever seen him. You're never going to see him in 5 years. And then this idea of him walking up to the door and this man like opening the door for him all of a sudden is like it's a sinister moment that plays well after the build up to it. It's got a lot of great moments. It's a fantastic episode. I rate this one pretty highly.
This is also kind of interesting for me. I don't know if this plays for you guys. So there's a couple of little neat quirks to this one. But one of them that I liked, and one of the things I like maybe a little, I'm not going to say I think that Obsession's a great movie, a 5-star movie. But I think in Obsession, Bear is just, you can sympathize with him. Like you can understand, like, being a guy who's awkward and, wants somebody he can't have and all that. You can sympathize with all that. But he's just such a spineless turd, through the rest of the movie that you kind of lose all that. But with this one, with Andrew McCarthy, there's a lot that I find, because he's from a small town. I'm kind of from a small town. He's from, he's a screenwriter. I want to make movies. I've written screenplays, so I know what that feels like. I get the whole really wanting to make something big and something cool and unique, and feeling like it's derivative, feeling like you're getting stuck. I've definitely pined after somebody who was out of my league, like probably all of us have. And like you said, what's interesting about Mariel Hemingway's character in this is that I actually she's definitely supposed to be one of those early 90s Hollywood types who's just very self-motivated and caught up in her own stuff. But when you really watch it, I remember watching as a kid and thinking she was really awful. But now when I watch it, I'm like, I mean, she's doing her own thing, and this guy just kind of wanders into it. And
Well,
she shouldn't be expected to drop everything for this dude or anything.
I think the part at the beginning that's
Yeah.
where she comes off as shitty is when she tells him, "When you're rich, I'll give you time."
Right.
Like, I think
Yeah.
that comes off. That's the part that comes off as shitty.
Or when you're successful, that's when we have it.
Yeah.
He also
yeah.
snuck into her house at that point, right? She's like,
had,
"Who the
yeah.
fuck are you? And why are you in my house?" And he's like, "I really like you." And she's like, "Fine, we'll hang out when you're rich. Now get out of my house."
Right.
And that's one of the things I was going to point out is that Bear in Obsession is somewhat sympathetic because he breaks a stick into with no actual expectation that this wish will ever work because no one would have that expectation. That's crazy. This guy physically drugs a woman,
right?
knowingly.
Oh yeah, no. He does some
a large difference.
He does some awful stuff. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
He gets what is coming to him, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just do think it's interesting how time can change the way you view a situation. Because I do remember because even her telling him that she's not really interested until he's successful. On one hand, it does seem shitty, but on the other, I mean, she's just being honest about what she's. She's like, hey, I'm not looking for a guy who's trying to make his way in Hollywood. I'm looking for somebody who can help me with my career.
Yeah,
fair. I mean, whether you like it or not.
It's fair, but it does come off as a shitty attitude at first.
Sure,
and I think the episode is trying to portray her as a shitty person.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to try to feel sympathy. They have to make you feel kind of okay with the fact this guy might do what he's going to do. But
yeah, it does all fall apart. Like I said, when he actually drugs her, I'm like, at that point, you're like, okay, well, now it's bad.
Yeah.
And he does the classic mistake of not doing what he's told, and it gets all crazy. Yeah. So love to death. Great episode. Good way to kick off the season. Then we'll move on to episode 2, Carrion Death. This one also aired June 15th, 1991. This one's based on Shock Suspense Stories number 9 from June of 1953. Directed by Stephen E. DeSouza and starring Kyle MacLachlan and George Del Hoyo. A convicted killer named Diggs escapes from prison and robs a bank, hoping to make it to Mexico and disappear, but is pursued by a cop. When the cop catches up to him, he manages to handcuff himself to Diggs before being shot, but swallows the key as he dies, leaving Diggs handcuffed to the corpse. Now he must try to escape through the desert carrying the dead weight. This is another 4 out of 5 for me. I really love Kyle MacLachlan's the whole reason this is great. He's pretty much a one-man show here. And Kyle MacLachlan's always great. And
Anything
he's
Kale's in. Amazing.
yeah, he man, he is just so good in this. He's just this right bastard that you don't like in any moment in the entire episode. You're never rooting for him. And like that's funny for me because I usually find myself rooting for the even the people that are bad. You know, I'm like, oh, you know, I get why he's doing this, but this guy just sucks. And the whole time you're like, yeah, I hope he gets what's coming to him, and of course he does. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think about Carrie and Death?
Great episode. Like I said, I love Kale because anything that you know, being a giant David Lynch fan, you kind of grow some affinity for Kyle MacLachlan through that. So I think this is a fun episode. There's almost hilarious moments when he's dragging this corpse with him. It's very funny. Him getting pissed off at this bird throughout. It really is all about his acting and his ability to portray this piece of shit character who is in this really hilariously unfortunate and terrible situation.
Right.
So it just works. And the end of this episode also has always stuck with me because I remember this being one that stood out as a kid with the gore in the end. So great episode.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Steven D'Souza had actually directed this one until I went back and rewatched it last night, which is shocking. I didn't know that he had actually directed anything, and I don't know if he did outside of this. He was a big screenwriter, did like Commando and all that stuff. Anything that mentions Valverde, that's Steven D'Souza. So like Predator, Commando, any big action movie from the 80s. But yeah, this one is super fun. You only have two characters the entire time. Just Diggs, the guy trying to flee, and the cop that he is unfortunately attached to. I do find it weird that at no point does he try to cut open the guy to get the key. He tries to cut off the handcuffs at one point disastrously, but outside of that, I don't know why he never did that as part of the script. Yeah.
I have to guess it's because like he doesn't really have anything. I mean, what he ends up trying to use to cut his the chain is like
the badge,
quasi sharpened badge, and we see that was a bad idea. So
but like Jeremy was saying,
a great director.
Is brutal.
Yeah, so he directed one thing that killed his career as a director, and that's the 1994 Street Fighter.
Wait, that was him? I didn't realize he directed that.
Was the writer, his writer director of Street Fighter, and it killed his directing career immediately.
That is absolutely insane. Yeah, that would kill your directing career. Oh no! And then he wrote Judge Dredd the next year. Yeah,
exactly. That was the next thing he did, and his career was over after that.
Oh, that's the thing. You know, I'm going to come out, which we don't want to get too far away from this, but you know, I think Judge Dredd in the '90s is pretty cool. I think it's a pretty fun movie.
It's fun going back and rewatching it now. It's
better than Street Fighter.
Yeah, but it's not a good Dredd movie. But it's fun.
I debate with that because I think a lot of people saw the newer Dredd movie. Who's the guy that did that?
Carl.
But the director. Shit, I can't remember the director.
The guy that did The Raid.
Yeah, he does a lot of edgy stuff.
Yeah. Gareth Evans. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not who I'm thinking of. It's the guy who wrote it. Hang on a second.
Alex Garland?
That's not who I'm thinking of. What am I thinking of? Well, maybe I'm just wrong on this. But at any rate, moving right along with this is that the new Dredd is a very cool movie. I like it a lot. It's very dark. It's very edgy. It's very gritty. That's really not what the Dredd comic books are at all. Like I don't know if I think a lot of people get mistaken and they're much more in line with like what the 90s show is than they are in the 90s movie.
Yeah, they're heavy satire of like that police state. They don't ever portray they don't really portray Dredd as like this action hero that's out there kicking in doors. And
now I do think it was probably a mistake. I say mistake right now. Like you know, who would have thought it would have been a mistake to cast Sylvester Stallone in an action movie? But I mean, of course it's going to make money. It would have been the thought. But you know, I think that they probably just had the wrong team going after that. You know, and it probably just they're trying to capture a certain thing that maybe it was the zeitgeist wasn't ready for in that moment.
Well, I was going to say it was that era of really bad superhero movies. I mean, right in the mid '90s, there was really nothing good out. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so at any rate, but yeah, carrying death, very cool. Like there's some later in the game because for the first 3/4 of the episode, it's just a guy carrying another guy around in the desert and like falling and struggling. But it does get pretty gory by the last act. There's a brutal attempt to cut the handcuffs off with a dull police badge. And then there's the tipping all the way over, falling all the way down off of a cliff and breaking it. The neck break in that, the special effect for that just looks gruesome.
It does.
Like I remember looking at that and going, Jesus, like I would hope that if that had happened to me, I would not be conscious anymore. This would not be great. It might be a good time. So they did a good job with that. Yeah, and then shout out to there's a cool vulture out. I don't know how hard it is to work with a vulture, but I can't imagine it's super easy.
It can't be easy.
So, all right, then we'll move on to the last of the 3-pack, episode 3, The Trap, which aired June 15th, 1991. This one is based on Shock Suspense Stories number 18 from December of 1954. This one is directed by the Michael J. Fox and starring Terry Garr, Bruce McGill, and Bruno Kirby. Lou is an out-of-work deadbeat who decides to fake his own murder to collect the life insurance money with the help of his wife and his coroner brother. But he may be the one getting played after all. This one's probably going to be a 3 for me, like 2.5, 3. Like, I have nostalgia for this one because, again, it was in the mix of the movie that I had it on tape. I watched it all the time. I think Bruce McGill is like working real hard in this episode because like he's a bastard and you hate him, but he's also really funny and watchable. So you're on board with like seeing what happens to this guy, and it's all his work. Because I mean, Terry Garr's fine; she's cool, she's doing her thing. And Bruno Kirby, they're both kind of barely in it, so it's really mostly just you're with Bruce and how much of a douchebag he is, and it's like he's kind of that like level of douchebag that's like so horrible it's like funny. I think there's some good comedy bits here. It's cool to see Michael J. Fox show up in the episode as like the prosecutor in the courtroom scene. All in all, though, this one's a little less Tales from the Crypty. Like, like there's not really a kind of a twist. There's more like, a betrayal. And then the guy who faked his own death, like, can't prove he's who he said he was because he faked his own death and looks like somebody else kind of now. It's fine. Like, it's not, I don't hate it, but it's definitely not going to go down in my top favorites. What do you guys think? What about it? What do you think, George?
I like this one, just because for some reason Bruce McGill just going around yelling his own name in the show kills me. Like,
I'm Lou Paloma.
I'm Paloma. Lou Paloma. So good. This one is, you can definitely tell that Michael J. Fox directed this one because it does not go into the horror side of things tremendously. Like you're saying, this is more of a comedy thriller, I would say, episode than it is horror. It's a fun one, but I think a 3 is a more than fair rating for this one. Yeah, it's fun. It's not hard to get through, but it's also not nearly the best.
What you think, Jeremy?
I like this one a lot. This episode really only works because of how good
Bruce
McGill is in this.
Oh, yeah.
That character is just fantastic, and he's just so much fun, and the ridiculousness of it all. There's also I love some of the scenes in it when he's banging on the coffin as it's getting ready to go into the incinerator. It's just it's so
fucking
funny.
on top of it. I also really love the his way. It's another beautiful sunset, isn't it, man? And he's like, yes, what the fuck ever, shut up.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful sunset.
I just love him. Like, I like him in the coffin reading the little comic book. He's like, hey, what's that? What's that noise? It's so good. That scene had me rolling.
And there is that great moment where they're asking his mom, like, do you see your son? She's like, yes, that's my son Lou over there. And who am I? Well, you're my son Lou. It's like, uh-oh.
And who are you?
I'm Eleanor Roosevelt.
I'm Eleanor Roosevelt.
You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, this episode is just hilarious. Which is it. If this was in a show that wasn't Tales from the Crypt, I'd probably love the hell out of this episode. It'd be so much better.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, it is good. It's just, I think whenever I'm looking,
but it would fit more in the tone of this season if it was a different show.
Yeah, like if they had ever made that which we'll talk about this more a little bit at the end of this season and then the beginning of next season. But if they had ended up doing the Two Fisted Tales show, I think this would have been a great Two Fisted Tales episode.
Yeah. It's just a super fun episode. I do love it. I think it's funny. It's not a scary episode, so it's very different in tone, but I like it a lot.
All right, so moving on from that, and we're going to our first episode that was not on the first night of airing. This is episode 4, Abracadaver, aired June 19th, 1991, based on Tales from the Crypt number 37 from 1953. This one's directed by Stephen Hopkins and starring Beau Bridges, Tony Goldwyn, and Tom Wright. A once successful surgeon turned research assistant after a prank gone wrong, leaving him partially paralyzed, studies Haitian religious practices, seeking a way to extend the brain's survival after clinical death. And his brother, who played the prank on him originally, and who now serves as his cruel boss, just might be the best test subject. This one is one of my favorites of the season. I think it's 5 out of 5. I think this one is really great because when I think of Tales from the Crypt, like when somebody says Tales from the Crypt, and we're talking about the show, this is one of the first 2 or 3 episodes that come into my head. I always think about this one. I saw it on TV a lot when it was on Fox, in syndication. I think the really cool first person point of view of the guy being kind of trapped in his body was a really fun and unique way to handle the episode, which lets them pull off a lot of really fun gags. I think the whole kind of double twist that you get at the end is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. This one, and Beau Bridges is really, really good in this. I like how he kind of goes from being this sort of mild-mannered, hobbled, research assistant guy to this wickedly evil, I'm going to get away with my brother thing. It's just a lot of fun, and I don't know. There's something I really like, weird setups of pranks gone wrong and practical joke, kind of the Slaughter High thing. Yeah, I like stuff like that. I don't know. What do you think, Jeremy? What do you think about Abracadaver?
I like this episode. It's a lot of fun. I like the dude's fake Jamaican accent. Mm-hmm. It's a great bit there. It's overall good episode. It's not my favorite of this season, but I like it a lot, and I think the twist in the end works really well.
All right. What about you, George?
Yeah, out of the first 7, this might be my favorite out of the first half of the season. I love this one. It's fantastic. Tony Goldwyn does a great job. Like you were saying, with the first person pieces, kind of narrating everything that's going on, what he's feeling as he's kind of being processed after death.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Beau Bridges giving some pretty fantastic monologues at some points. And just going kind of batshit nuts with this one, which was not normal for him. He was always one of those more grounded character actors. So to see him in something like this is a lot of fun. I love this one because you think you know exactly where it's going, and then you don't. And then there's an extra twist at the end. Super fun. Like you said, I feel like this is probably quintessential Tales from the Crypt. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad we're mostly in agreement there. We'll go on to episode 5, Top Billing. This one aired June 26, 1991, based on the Vault of Horror number 39 from October 1950. Directed by Todd Holland and starring John Lovitz, Bruce Boxleitner, and John Astin, the great John Astin. I also wanted to mention that Kimmy Robertson, Louise Fletcher, Sandra Bernhardt, also all in this episode. So, a down-on-his-luck actor seeks to beat his handsome former roommate to the role of Hamlet in a very off-Broadway stage production. But just what will he do to secure the role? This is another 5 out of 5 for me. This is another one that instantly comes to my mind whenever I think of Tales from the Crypt. I think that it has, the Tales from the Crypt twist in it. It's the thing you expect in something like Tales from the Crypt. Just a thing that is so deliciously ironic in the best way. I think John Lovitz is I like John Lovitz. I think he's really funny. I think he's really great in this because he kind of comes off John Lovitz kind of always comes off as that kind of smart ass asshole, and he is that in this show. He's pretty much just playing himself, and he does a really great job of that. You don't really see Bruce Boxleitner being a bad guy, and so having a bad guy in this was interesting. And John Astin, I mean, he's amazing. Like he is Gomez. He has so many awesome characters. He is great as the over the top theater director, like super high on his own supply and just very weird and eccentric, and in more ways than you might even imagine when you get to the end of the twist. Yeah, I think and I just had this thing for stuff that has like a theater as a backdrop. I really like that as a trope. I think there's another, which I mean, we can go ahead and spoil the twists. I mean, again, if you don't want another twist, skip ahead a few minutes. But I always, especially back in the day, I really liked stuff that had like the mental institution like thing, like the escaped mental like patients. I think that's a really cool like backstage for this story. Yeah, man, I just such a cool like how great is it to imagine you murdered somebody to get a role, only to find out that you basically murdered your way into getting killed. It's pretty awesome. What'd you think, Jeremy?
So this is probably my favorite episode of this season, of the first half of this season. I think this episode is so much fun. Like you said, anything John Astin's in, I'm immediately tuning in. I'm there for it.
Yeah,
he's just absolutely legendary. And everything he does is so much fun. And when he's in a role, he is 100% in that role and on, and that stands here. His character's so over the top and so much fun. And then John Lovitz is just the perfect smarmy kind of like arrogant shithead. It is the perfect role made for him. So just a really great cast all around. Kimmy Robertson is fantastic in this as well. So you've got a wonderful cast, and the episode just works all around.
Oh yeah, I did want to bring up like Kimmy Robertson has like one of my favorite bits in this where she's like, I made you some chicken, and like just standing there in like the fucking like doorway with her new boyfriend, like what moving out on this guy is like so fucking ridiculous. And then the guy's eating his chicken.
Yeah,
that's the best part. So good. What'd you think, George?
Love it. This one is super fun. Watching it makes me think about John Lovitz on SNL in the 80s, where he always played the master thespian, which is exactly what he wants to be in this episode. He wants to be, the actor who made it, but he wants to do it by doing the classic Shakespeare. Super fun. Him and Boxleitner play off each other super well. And one thing that I found interesting doing research on this one, I've seen this episode numerous times over the years. I always thought that Hallowell, the director, played by John Astin, and Beeks, I always thought Beeks was also John Astin, that he was doing roles.
Yeah,
I had no idea. For some reason, that just was always John Astin to me. I thought he was doing dual roles, and now I realize he's not.
I can see why you would think that.
They look very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've seen that guy. Who was it that played? Did you write his name down?
Paul Benedict, and he has been in a ton of stuff over the years.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like.
The man with his brains. He was in Addams Family, Spinal Tap. Yep.
That must be Spinal
he's
Tap.
Been around.
It's probably that. That's the one I know him from the most.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, great episode. Like the twist of like playing Yorick. That's just so great. It's just such a great, and like even though it looks kind of stupid, I love the final shot of like the degloved like face that's just like a perfect mask laying in the trash outside of this place.
Yeah,
so
that seems pretty corny.
Yeah, it's corny, but it's corny in the best way. The whole thing.
Yeah,
and now that you brought it up, George, I'm sure the whole master thespian thing is the whole reason they cast Lovitz for this. Like,
it had to be.
I think that's gotta be it.
Yeah. So such a great time. It's probably my favorite episode of this season too. I really do love, or at least of the first half of the season. Okay, so we'll move on to episode 6, Dead Weight. This one aired July 3rd, 1991, based on the Vault of Horror number 23 from February 1952. This one is directed by the Toby Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame, and starring James Remar, Vanity, John Rhys Davies, and Whoopi Goldberg. A 2-bit thug learns of a priceless pearl in the mansion of a wealthy landowner. He plans to befriend the man, take the pearl and his girlfriend, and escape. But things may not turn out to be as easy as he planned. This one's like a 2.5 for me. I don't hate it. Like, it's not one I would tell people you have to skip or anything, but it's also not. I think when I see Toby Hooper, maybe my expectations are too high because I just think this one's. There's not a lot of actual horror to it. There's like a lot of. It's like another one of those like crime thriller kind of things. I should love this because I love James Remar. I think Vanity is scorching hot. She is scorching hot in this episode, and if you want to see Vanity getting down, she gets down in it. So something you probably haven't seen every day. I tend to like stuff with like voodoo subplots, but I don't think there's much voodoo. It's just kind of there on the horizon. They don't really like get into it like they do with some of the other episodes. There's this whole weird thing about Davy's character like having these like parasites, like worm parasites, and like when they cut him open at some point, he legitimately has like mealworms inside of him, which I thought was really strange and like an odd plot point for the episode. I don't know. I don't. Again, I should love this one. It's not one of my favorites. What did you think, George?
I love this one. Not gonna lie. Not the best thing that Toby Hooper's done, and like you said, I love James Remar as well, but I do feel like he's kind of one note in this one. He really is just, he's on a mission to get this pearl, right? He doesn't really give a whole lot to work with. But I think once everything kicks in, like where he's starting to dig into John Rhys Davies' character to try to find the pearl, I think it takes off. I don't know that Whoopi Goldberg was right for the role that she plays in this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She kind of feels like she's just wandering in.
Kind of. From scene to scene. Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, once again, there's, a twist at the end. Bad guy gets what's coming to him. But I do really, really enjoy the scene where he's trying to get the pearl out of the body. Because that is just gruesome as fuck, in my opinion. It's super gory, and the worms get to me, so maybe that's why it works so well.
Very good. What do you think, Jeremy?
This was one of the episodes that I thought was one of the lesser episodes, I guess is the best way to phrase it, in the first half of this season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say it's bad because it's not bad. It is entertaining, but it does feel, I don't know, it feels out of place almost in Tales from the Crypt to me for some reason. I don't think it feels like a Tales from the Crypt episode almost. It almost feels like it should be in a different show.
I feel like the twist in this is just sort of tacked on. It doesn't feel like an earned twist.
Yeah. So it just didn't land for me. I don't think it's anybody's fault, any of the actors' fault necessarily. I think they all are doing good with the material they've got here. Yeah. And Toby Hooper did a good job directing. There's some cool sets and everything in it. It looks good. It just isn't a story that particularly interests me very well. So.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like I feel like there's like a film noir of this story that plays out. That would be really good, but like there's something about when you condense it down to like 30-ish minutes. And it just, it's mostly, I think really what the problem I have with it is not that it's a bad episode. It just doesn't hit most of the Tales from the Crypt notes for me. So I just feels kind of like I'm watching something else.
The good version of the story with a guy going to a voodoo country and looking for something relentlessly is called The Serpent and the Rainbow, and it's great.
There you go. That's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, again, I think a lot of it too is I probably when I first saw this, I don't think I ever saw this one when it aired. I think this is one I saw later on DVD. I think I saw Toby Hooper and I'm like, oh man, I need to fucking buckle my seatbelt because this is going to be like the best damn episode of Tales from the Crypt I've seen. And then I was like, I mean, it's fine.
I've got a lot of replays on HBO back in the day. This probably wasn't one of the ones that was they
kind of surprising when you think about it though, because like Vanity being nude in it, I think. Get that on there as much as
and Whoopi Goldberg was a huge star back then, so it is surprising, but I don't recall seeing this one replayed. So,
but it's not terrible. There's good acting in it. It's just not one of my friends. I really liked it, so this is gonna work for some people for sure. And I think something that we probably all feel this way. There's only maybe one or two episodes in all of Tales from the Crypt I think are bad, and even those I think are like watchable. So there's really nothing in the whole series where I'd be like, just don't watch this. It's so bad you're going to be mad. Or there's really nothing like that. All right.
I mean, unless you're just somebody that doesn't really love. If you're somebody that doesn't love horror in general, then I'd probably say to skip quite a few. But
but I mean, why are you listening?
But if you're here listening to this podcast,
right? That's kind of what I was like. All right,
Yeah,
so we're
all of
coming
them.
around to our very last episode of the night. This is the halfway point of season 3, and this is episode 7, The Reluctant Vampire. This one aired July 10th, 1991, based on the Vault of Horror number 20 from August 1951. Directed by Elliot Silverstein and starring Malcolm McDowell, Sandra Dickinson, George Wendt, and Michael Berryman. A vampire who works the night shift in a blood bank has his job threatened when the numbers begin to look low from his feedings, so he takes to the streets for some vigilante justice to replace the loss. Unfortunately for him, a vampire hunter is blown into town and might be on his trail. This is another kind of middle. I like this one more. It's probably more of like a 3 for me, 3 out of 5. I think this one's really funny and has a lot of cute moments, but it's like almost completely devoid of like the humor. I mean, not the humor, excuse me, the horror. It's like very funny with like almost no real sinister elements much. Malcolm McDowell's, you don't often see him playing what I would call a comedic character. So that's interesting. He does a good job at that here. I think George Wendt is really good as like the like sleazy boss. Michael Berryman's cool as the Van Helsing stand-in. It's always cool to see Michael Berryman show up. Yeah, I mean it's okay. I don't hate it. I don't love it. What do you guys think? What about George? What do you think about this one?
I like this one. May not be my favorite. Michael Berryman is great in this. The glasses that he wears are just hilarious. George Wendt is good, but almost too good at being a bad guy. It's odd to see him as a bad character for once. Love Malcolm McDowell, granted. But so I know we were talking about the first episode, The Love to Death, and I was like, hey, this is a story about Cupid. This one's a story about AIDS. Hear me out.
Okay.
Like, I was watching this one at one point, Longtooth, the main character, he's like, oh, I really don't want to have to go out and start sucking on the streets again. And I'm like, wait. And then there's a scene where he's literally draining a guy in an alleyway. That some of those shots, I was like, is this trying to say more than what it's actually saying here in this episode? I
Interesting.
don't know. And even before he bites the guy in the alley, he's like, have you had any dental surgery? Do you have any bloodborne pathogens I need to know about? Like, yeah, this is
Oh,
definitely
I think that is a joke about the
AIDS,
giving blood thing.
the AIDS time of AIDS. Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, it's a fun one. There's a lot of comedy to it. But once again, not a lot of horror with this episode at all.
What do you think, Jeremy?
I love this episode. I think it's a lot of fun. I think Sandra Dickinson is probably the best part of the episode, honestly.
Yeah.
Her character at the end is hilarious when she's like, "Yeah, I've always known." It's kind of hot. It's funny. It's a lot of fun. I think the twist in this one, with George Wendt and his character at the end and Van Helsing and everything is like you can see it coming as soon as he shows up, and you know where the timelines are aligning of who's going where at these moments. You're like, oh, okay, you can see this coming. It's not a surprising twist at all, but it works so well, and then the moments after it are so fun.
Yeah,
That
I would
it's just
actually
a great
almost
episode.
even argue that the twist in this episode is more that the vampire, instead of like, it's kind of like your whole. It's not like the big like plot twist, but it's the like what makes it a quirky Tales from the Crypt story. The vampire's the good guy in this one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a great episode. I really enjoyed it. There is no horror here. It's completely devoid of it, which is definitely a bit weird for Tales from the Crypt and there's really like it's one of the few ones where the main character of the story doesn't get his comeuppance, and the bad guy kind of just loses in the end, which is very, very like unusual for this series and does feel out of place. So I could see why if somebody was watching this expecting the typical Tales from the Crypt episode, they wouldn't be down with this and would think of this as a lesser episode for sure. I like it, even though I do understand why somebody else might think it doesn't necessarily fit in the series.
Yeah, I think it fits. It's just not one of my favorites. Like I actually remember I probably before I saw the actual episode, I read the comic version in one of the old Vault of Horror reissues that I bought when I was a kid, and so I kind of knew. And that one's like funny, but it's still the same take, like a vampire who's working in a blood bank, having to replace the blood and all that. It doesn't have. I don't think it has the love story or like that kind of stuff. But I remember it being kind of cool, which is what I thought was interesting, was doing the AIDS. I definitely think you could say that, and maybe they even were trying to say that, what they were doing here. But what is interesting is the story's old. The story's from like 51. Very, very similar stuff going on in it. Just not the. I don't remember him asking anybody like the stuff he asked before he give blood, like he does in that. But obviously, because it was a different time, they probably didn't ask questions. In 1951, they're just like, yeah, give blood. We'll just scrape it off the street. It's fine.
I think the stuff like the dental work questions are the kind of thing where it's like doesn't necessarily line up with the AIDS thing as much, because it is just like he's just asking a silly blood question. But I can see where George is coming from, especially with the whole like thing at the end where she's like, "I've always known," and I kind of think it's hot, because that is kind of like a stereotype also.
Yeah. I think there's some subtext I had never thought of.
I can see it for sure.
George is like breaking out this subtext shit tonight, because I never thought about the Cupid thing either. And there's now he says it, I'm like, shit, you're right.
Gonna be making video essays next week.
And aren't there like little Cupid statues in his office?
There are. Yeah.
Shit. I saw that. I thought of that, but I never thought of him as. I'm like, wait, no, yeah. Also, why would he have a love? That's weird. So interesting.
See? Evil Cupid.
Interesting. That's really cool. So you learn something new every day. But so this that's the first 7 episodes. I think season 3 is a good season. For Toast in the Crypt was really, really doing great for the first 3-4 seasons. I think season 5 still has some good stuff in it, but that's where it starts to lose its steam. And then season I think season 7 is the one that's easily the worst season. But I still think there's good stuff in it, and when we get there, we'll definitely talk. But one of the things we wanted to do tonight,
so that's the British season, right? Is 7.
It is, yeah. And then 7 is kind of moved the production to England to cut costs. They're trying to keep the show going, but they could film it a lot cheaper in England. So they kind of went with England, went with a lot of like. When we get there, there's some stuff like there's young Daniel Craig in an episode, like a very young Daniel Craig, like long before we ever thought of him being James Bond. So, when we get there, it'll be cool, and like I said, all the cool stuff. So we're going to cover them. But so that's the first half of that. And we always do our recommendations at the end of the episode. And this time we thought it would be fun to do recommendations based on like actors or directors or people who show up in this season, and like kind of things that they were in that we like. So I'll let George, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your recommendations from people that were in season 3.
Yeah, so I've got 3 recommendations this week. My first is going to be for David Hemmings, who plays the kind of evil Cupid in Love to Death, the first episode of the season. Mm-hmm. And he was also the lead in 1975's Deep Red by Dario Argento. So that's going to be my first recommendation. It is kind of the quintessential Italian giallo film for me. You literally have a killer that you see all first person, the black gloves, everything that makes giallo, and it is also pretty violent for the era, for 1975. I don't think anybody had really seen much like it by that point. So I know you guys aren't as big of Argento fans as I am, but yeah, definitely had to recommend Deep Red.
I do love this movie, though. Deep Red's great.
I do too.
It's
so much fun.
It's not my favorite Argento. It's my second, but it's my second favorite Argento movie. It's great movie.
And it has a surprising amount of comedy in it, I feel like, for the type of film that it is. So
I have told my wife multiple times that I have to go to Italy and go to Profondo Rosso before I die. At some point in my life, I have to see it.
All right. Sounds like we're doing a podcast abroad. That's what it sounds like to me.
Podcast in Italy at Profondo Rosso.
Argento
is a guest.
Shit. I don't know if Argento will still be by the time we make it to Italy. We hope, but Deep Red is one of those. I think Deep Red is. It's one of those that I have to recognize is like a really great film because I know very few people who dislike it. It's one that always talked about whenever Argento comes up as kind of like his greatest movie, his best thing. I've tried to watch it a few times in a few different decades, and it just never really lands for me. And I don't know what it is about it. I it's just not one of my favorites. I'm going to give it another years and try it again. But I'm definitely not dissuading people. I think you should see this because most people really like it. It's just for some reason it doesn't land for me.
Yeah, it's not my favorite Argento, but it's pretty high up there for me. Yeah, it can't beat Suspiria, but a few things can. But second recommendation. This one is going to be Due to Carrion Death, episode 2 of the season. Since that one has Kyle MacLachlan, and we've already talked about his relation with David Lynch, we have to talk about Blue Velvet from 1986. Filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, not too far away from where we are. Blue Velvet is an absolute masterpiece of a movie. Dennis Hopper at his most insane, Kyle MacLachlan as I feel like he's a college freshman at this point in the movie, but coming back to town and just getting wrapped up in the most like fucked up crime ring you could imagine. Super, super fun and really delves into the thing that Lynch loved about what's happening behind picket fences, what's happening in suburbia that we aren't seeing, where's the kind of seedy underbelly below this like idyllic town. And that is definitely what Blue Velvet is. Absolutely love that movie.
Oh yeah, Blue Velvet's great. I've notoriously had a love-hate relationship with David Lynch because there are some movies of his I think are like absolute top 30 movies of all time. And then there are things of his that I didn't really like or didn't really resonate with. And this was the first David Lynch movie I saw that really worked for me. I really, really like Blue Velvet. It's great.
No, I love it. And speaking of David Lynch, going back to The Blob, this rewatch of The Blob was the first time I ever noticed Jack Nance being in The Blob, who played Eraserhead in David Lynch's first movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Blue Velvet. I love everything David Lynch has done. So I even like Dune. Everybody dislikes Dune, it seems like, but I even love his Dune. So everything he's done, David Lynch is great.
Agreed. Dude was a master. It's a shame that we lost him. But let's see. Moving on to the third. This one is going to be for Abracadaver, episode 4, which I've already said was probably my favorite out of the first half of the season. But we have Tony Goldwyn in that one as one of the brothers, one of the main actors in that episode. And he also shows up briefly in Friday 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives from 1986. You guys may or may not agree with me, but Jeff may. Jason Lives is my favorite of the series.
Oh, it's all of our favorite.
Okay, good to know. We're in
Pretty
good
sure.
company.
Yeah, 100% it is.
Yeah.
Number 6 is just so much fun. It gets the comedy, it gets the horror, it gets that mix just perfectly right. Especially for being the 6th film in a series. This is usually when series are going straight downhill, and this one just kind of revitalized it. But yeah, Tony Goldwyn is in a scene where him and another camp counselor are on the way to the camp. They get stuck in their VW Beetle in the mud, and it's actually one of the funnier scenes in the film, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen Friday the 13th Part 6, go ahead and do that. Everything else, go watch that instead.
Yeah, that's true. I have. Well, I'm not going to say that's probably not as crazy or out of pocket as I think that people listening to the podcast wouldn't have seen that, but
never know.
Definitely the best Friday the 13th. It's the most fun, like especially when you're watching it with a group of people. It's the beginning of Zombie Jason, which I think is best Jason.
Same.
Probably a common opinion with everybody on the podcast. Jeremy and I probably watched this movie 800 times when we were kids and laughed at some of the dumbest shit, like does he think I'm a fart head and stuff like that? So, I mean,
I still say that shit all the time.
Yeah, same. So yes, oddly, one of the few Friday the 13th movies that doesn't have nudity in it.
Yeah,
that is true. There is no nudity within. Yep.
And it's funny because Darcy DeMoss is in it, and she would have done it. I think she's asked, if I remember right.
Damn, mistakes were made.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird.
Not my favorite anymore.
Damn.
I'm joking.
All right, Jeremy, what are your recommendations for season?
All right, well, I'm going to kick this off with one that's honestly kind of closely related to Tales from the Crypt, and that is in the Abracadabra episode, one of the research assistants, the guy with the Jamaican accent, I believe, is Tom Wright, who plays Martin Morehouse in Tales from the Hood.
Oh yeah.
He is in the first segment of this, which is this movie is structured kind of like an EC Comics anthology.
Oh yeah.
Almost
Definitely
with a
inspired.
very obviously from the name.
And important to note, directed by the same guy who directed Demon Knight.
Rusty Cundiff.
Yep, Rusty Cundiff.
Who's obviously a big Tales from the Crypt fan.
Yeah, and this ties into that. It is several segments. I think is it 4 or 5?
You've got the David Allen Greer one. You've got the dolls. You've got the one, the one at the end of the prisoners. I think there's
4 plus a wraparound.
Yeah.
So the wraparound is great too, because you've got Clarence Williams III playing like this mortuary owner / worker, I guess, who tells these stories to these kids that I believe break into it at the beginning, or are 3
aren't they there to like
drug dealers? They're like there
that somebody stole.
Yeah, and he traps them in there and proceeds telling these stories, and it's just a lot of fun. All the stories are good, and they are all they're all stories about racism and society and stuff like that, with a Tales from the Crypt-esque twist on it. So I highly recommend this. I think this movie is great. I don't think the sequels are as good. There's 3 of these total, and I think the sequels are much worse than the original, in my opinion. But this first one is just great and fantastic. So,
yeah, I do think the sequels. I like the sequels, but yeah, they're nowhere. You have to lower expectations by quite a bit, but they're fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. The second movie I'm going to recommend here is in the Trap episode. The jury forewoman in that is Yvette Freeman. And she would go on to star in Children of the Corn Part 3 Urban Harvest.
Wow. Crazy fucking like segue there.
This is my favorite Children of the Corn movie by far.
Yep.
I don't really even care much for Children of the Corn except this one. I love this movie. It's so cheesy. The effects at parts are so bad. There's a scene near the end when there's a giant corn kind of like demon monster that comes out, and it grabs this woman, and it's very, very clearly a Barbie doll. Like you can just see it's a Barbie doll it's holding. And it's just so much fun. I think it's great. You've got these 2 kids who are from the country, and one of them is obviously some sort of evil corn cultist.
Right.
And they're adopted by this family in the city after one of them murders the adopted father they have there out in the country. And then this kid just starts growing like a whole field of corn in like this inner city like lot. It's so bizarre. It's so over the top. The plot is frankly stupid, and it's so much fun from start to finish. I love this movie.
I think there's this whole like, especially back in the 90s, we had these moments where had these long running franchises. And one of the things they really like to do is after they made a few, they would try to pick something just absolutely nuts, like a place to take it you would not expect. Like, you would have, Jason Goes to Manhattan. You had
Leprechaun in Space.
Leprechaun in Space.
Leprechaun
but I
in
think
the Hood.
maybe one of the most baller moves to ever be made is to take a movie whose entire premise is predicated on being out in the middle of in a small town among a bunch of cornfields and move it to a city. Like that is nuts.
It's crazy.
And what's interesting is that it almost feels like you're watching a movie that had a script and somebody just bought it and went, stick some corn in there, and it's a Children of the Corn movie. It's definitely a movie. I think it's fun. It's not what I would call, like you said, but you mentioned yourself, not what I'd call a good movie. But it is.
But it's stupid fun.
It is definitely watchable. The thing with the Children of the Corn movies is that you've got like Children of the Corn, which is arguably like a decent horror movie, first one, and then after that, you have a whole lot of them just continuously like making what that was a really cheap like movie, and none of them really land. This one is definitely the most fun, most watchable out of all of them, I think.
Yeah, I love. Like I said, it's not a good movie. It's stupid. The plot
it's
is
very stupid.
nonsense. But I have so much fun with this movie. There's the scene when the guy's head gets ripped off and his spinal cord's holding his head like 10 feet in the air for some reason. It's just insane. It's like, what are we doing? And every time I just have so much fun with this. It's great.
There's going to be a time, I think, when we talk the Children of the Corn series. I'm sure we'll do like an episode on it. And I went through this blitz where I watched like all of them. I think I've seen every Children of the Corn film that's to date, period. And I'm not as hard on it as some people are. Like, I do think some of the earlier ones kind of but I actually think some of the middle ones get kind of like they're super low budget, like, almost like direct to streaming type things. But some of them are all right. And there's like a newer one I think had like I don't know which one it was. One had like a fucking corn monster, and I thought that was ridiculous. Like, I laughed my ass off at the corn monster.
Yeah, before moving to Indiana, I lived in an apartment that had a theater that I could rent. And I used to have people come over. But one weekend, I had that theater in there. I don't think anyone was really available. So on the Sunday, I just sat there and I watched like 5 of these movies back to back in a theater. And it was a mind-numbing experience, but was a lot of fun. So yeah, Children of the Corn Part 3. I recommend it. I think you should watch it if you haven't. You might enjoy it as much as I do. As for my final recommendation, this season has, as we already discussed, Kyle MacLachlan, or as David Lynch would call him, Kale, and Kimmy Robertson both, who star in what I consider to be the greatest television show of all time, Twin Peaks, directed by David Lynch. If you don't know Twin Peaks, it is a show centered around the question of who killed a local high school girl named Laura Palmer. You've probably seen memes about it. And I think it is simply the greatest television show ever made. I love every minute of it. It's insane. It has funny moments. It has horrifying moments. It has moments where you truly feel horrible for some of the characters, moments where you hate those characters a few scenes later. It is a roller coaster from start to finish, and I think it's a tremendous triumph of television. So Twin Peaks is a must recommend for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. What do you think? What do you think, George?
One of my favorite shows of all time. Definitely a good recommendation. If anybody listening has not seen it, get on it. Twin Peaks is fantastic.
Yeah, Twin Peaks is interesting because I think I tried to watch it a long time ago when I was much younger, and I really did not get it at all. And I think I might have watched maybe a couple of episodes and just stopped because I was like, I don't get this. I don't get what they're trying to do. And then it was probably just before the new. So I will admit I have not seen the Return to Twin Peaks, whatever. At the time I didn't have access to where I could watch it when it was coming out, and just for some reason haven't managed to get around to watching it. But probably around the time that was announced, I decided I was going to do like a rewatch and try to get back into it. And it was the bridge for me for a lot of things for David Lynch, because then suddenly I got it. Like, suddenly I got the like kind of soap opera-y, like super melodramatic tone and weirdness, like really connected with me in a way they didn't when I was younger. I don't know if that's going to be like an everybody thing, like some when they're young and just think it's great. But I do think it may have a sensibility that you kind of need to be in the right headspace to like approach it. It's really great. Yeah, it's really, especially the first season. I don't think I like the second season as much as the first season, but first season's incredible.
Yeah. It's definitely a show that you should watch. You might not like it. It is divisive. Some people really dislike it when they watch it. It's a weird show. But I think you should definitely give it a chance, because you might find you're one of the people that thinks it just lands in every way for them, like me. So
yeah, you could, for sure. All right, so I have a few for you guys. One of the first ones I want is James Remar is in the Dead Weight episode, which I didn't love, but I do love James Remar. And he was in what I think is probably the most underrated and unfairly hated on entry in the Hellraiser franchise, Hellraiser in 2000. One of the things about Hellraiser Inferno is that it was a direct-to-video sequel of Hellraiser. And what I think a lot of people have come to find out, all the movies starting with Inferno all the way up until the found footage Hellraiser, which was Revelation, I think that's what that one was. Um, all of the movies in between there were actually not written as Hellraiser films. They were written as other horror films. And then the production company, in order to keep the Hellraiser rights, would take these scripts and sort of work in some Hellraiser stuff so they could kind of make a movie and keep the rights to making them. And that is the case here. It is definitely a movie that was made or was written not with Hellraiser in mind. They added Hellraiser elements. And because of that, I think in terms of the first 5 Hellraiser movies, it's going to be the weakest in terms of it being a Hellraiser movie. But this one was directed by Scott Derrickson. It's one of his first movies. Who would go on to do, like he's done The Black Phone. He's done Sinister. He's just like a big name in horror. It has Craig Sheffer in the main role from Nightbreed, who's like one of my favorites. I think he's really great. It's a film noir detective story with horror elements of like somebody trying to figure out, like what happened with this puzzle box and like a disappearance and a murder. I love those kind of stories. I love it when film noir comes together with horror. I think it's like some of the most perfect like meeting of things that exists. And so I think this is a really cool horror movie, even if the Hellraiser stuff is just kind of like extra. It's not like, really perfectly intrinsically tied. But I do think it's really good. It's definitely the best Hellraiser from 5 up. Like, they're most of them, some of them are almost unwatchable there in the middle.
Yeah, some rough ones.
But James Remar has a supporting role in this. I do think it's pretty good. Absolutely worth your time, especially if you're a Hellraiser fan, or if you just like the idea of film noir. Like I do. It's worth watching.
Yeah, this one always weirded me out because, like, spoiler alert for the next minute, skip ahead, I guess, is there's a part in this where they keep talking about this character, the engineer. And then when Pinhead shows up, he finally says, like, the guy's like, "You're the engineer." And he says, "It's as good a name as any." And it's like, and as a Hellraiser fan, that was weird because there's already a character in the lore called the engineer, which is like the weird monster that runs down the hallways of the labyrinth. So I remember watching this as a kid and being like, "What the fuck? Why is he's not the engineer?" And I was really, as like this mega nerd, I was like, "I'm upset about this. What the fuck?"
Yeah, I would make an argument though. We know that thing is called the engineer, but it is literally never meant to know the lore.
It's true. Unless you're really, really into this shit and like spend all your time on random Hellraiser websites as a child, you wouldn't know. So it was just funny to me that that's my take on it. But I like this movie a lot still.
As a lot of our listeners will know, you guys definitely listeners will know. Like I am one of the biggest Clive Barker fans on the planet. I know a lot of dumb shit about Clive Barker stuff that nobody else would know. And even that, I'll say it didn't bother me. Like I do remember it coming up being like that's weird, but it didn't
bother me because I like the movie still. But it is fun.
A 5th sequel in a Hellraiser series, they're gonna say some weird.
Yeah.
What about you? You like this one, George?
I do. It's fun. As far as the Hellraiser sequels go, it's a decent one. Definitely far better than some of the ones that came after it, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to do a rewatch. I haven't seen Deader and like Hellseeker and some of those other ones in like so long. I barely remember them, so it would be something I'd like to revisit at some point.
I have them all on Blu-ray, so if we want to watch them when I'm back in Winston,
yes, we will. Yeah. We'll do it. All right. The next one I want to recommend is this one's George Wendt was in The Reluctant Vampire. I'm kind of noticing the episodes I didn't love or some of the things I'm recommending in the end here, but George Wendt's awesome, and George Wendt is in House, 1985, one of my favorite 80s horror movies. House was directed by Steve Miner, who did Friday the 13th 2. Did he do 3? I know he did 2.
He did 2 and 3, yeah.
He did 2 and 3, yeah. Yeah, and then and a lot of other really great stuff. And this is written by Fred Decker, who you've heard this name pop up on this podcast many times. We love Fred Decker here. Huge Fred Decker stans. This is a really cool thing that he wrote. It stars William Catt, Kay Lenz, and Richard Mall, outside of George Wendt, of course. This is a fun horror comedy about a man who inherits a family house after the death of, I can't remember if it's his aunt. I think it's his aunt. Passes away or commits suicide. And he inherits this haunted, possessed, house. Yeah, so this thing is loaded to the gills with like goopy, wonderful 80s special effects, like just zany monsters and like ghosts and other cool things. Richard Mall plays like the villain in this as this like Vietnam soldier who was in the same unit as William Catt, who plays this writer who's like writing a novel in this house that he's inheriting. Richard Moll's in the same unit as him, and this guy was like just a horrible bastard who he left to die in the jungles, back then. And this guy shows back up as the zombie, and Richard Moll is like destroying scenery by chewing on it. So whenever he pops up, he's like so larger than life and so good as the bad guy. I found in later years, I always Moll as Bull from Night Court, which is probably what most people remember when they think of Richard Moll. But he's in so many cool things. Like, he was the bad guy in the pilot of the Highlander TV show. He was like the evil Highlander in that. He's the bad guy in that Dungeon Master movie.
Yeah.
And he's always so good. And I feel like he was in another one of the kind of Mad Max meets Escape from New York, like rip-off like kind of movies.
I feel like he was also in horror anthology too, right? One of the ones maybe it was Night Train to Terror. Is that what it was?
Oh yeah, he might have been in that.
I think he was in that, or maybe one of the films that they cut up to make.
Am I thinking? I can't look it up right now. Might be Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin that he's in.
Oh, I think he was in that. Yeah.
Which is another one of those, like, you hear that title,
Yeah,
what the fuck? I have to see this, and it's not a good movie, but Richard Moll's cool in it, and there's fun for a movie called Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin. It's all right, I feel like there's like kind of late night.
You know what you're getting into with that title.
Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, so yeah, House, man, highly recommended. I think it's really, really good. It has some horror, has a lot of comedy. You're gonna love it. What are you were getting ready to say something, George? This is the one you had feelings about?
Yeah, I was gonna say so. Well, I love House number one, but you were talking about the special effects in House. Once again, comes back to the Blob, same special effects company.
Yeah, they're just killing it.
Once again, Dream Quest.
Seriously, just insane. Yeah,
that's so weird too, because I feel like that's not a name that I remember a lot from like when I was coming up, and so now I'm really like I kind of want to get a look at their movies, just go through them, because I'm like, damn.
I think it's probably because they went out of business and they were like acquired by somebody else. So
yeah, that must be.
I think bought them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's probably why they were later known as the Secret Lab. They changed their name after being acquired. So,
okay. I hear a lot of weird like flack these days about House, and a lot of people seem not to like it, which I baffles me, because I've always thought it was a really, really solid, like kind of B80s horror flick. But I've heard a lot of people trashing it.
I think if you went into it expecting it to be like a really like scary horror movie, I could see why you might be surprised by what you get here, because it is weird.
It's definitely got a lot more comedy in it than you were probably prepared for.
But I like it a lot. I think the monsters all look super fun. I think I actually like the sequel better, but
I like
the first
we'll
one
get
too.
to that, because I do want to do a thing on the day, but so we'll get to that for sure.
Yeah, super fun movie.
The sequel's great.
Unfortunately, it was funny fact here. It says that this would have been first at the box office the week it released, but it lost to Pretty in Pink, which released the same week.
Interesting.
So,
interesting
release weekend.
I'm not gonna say that House is a better movie than Pretty in Pink. They're different.
Probably not.
I would say that I watch House a lot more than Pretty in Pink. So take that how you will. Pretty in Pink's not my favorite of the
John Hughes.
John Hughes. Yeah, I don't know why his fucking name is escaping me these days. John Hughes movies. I do like it, but it's not my favorite of the John Hughes catalog. But yeah, so definitely check out House and check out House. Those in the last one is a little bit of a cheat, because I wanted to make sure I was getting at some stuff that people hadn't seen, maybe hadn't heard of in a while, or offbeat. And I knew we were all going to be talking about movies, so I wanted to try to sneak something in that was different. So I cheated. I know that in the next half of the season, we have an episode that has Brian James, who is one of my favorite character actors of all time. You guys will know him probably if you're big fans of The Running Man. He plays Buzzsaw. Not Buzzsaw. Wait. Yeah, Buzzsaw, right? Wasn't that him? Maybe not. I might be getting this confused. Brian James, he was in Blade Runner. We'll do that. He was in Blade Runner. We know that for sure. A lot pops up as like a bad guy or like a weird character a lot of films. He is in an episode in the next half of season 3 that's called The Split Second. It's one of my favorite episodes. But we are going to be mentioning him at this point because he provided, and this is also a weird thing, he only provided, in quotes, additional voices for Spawn, the animated series. So Spawn, the animated series came out in 1997, ran for 3 seasons on HBO. I think this is the first adult cartoon I ever saw. I don't think by in like 97, I hadn't seen stuff like Heavy Metal or anything like that yet. And I was a big, at that time, Spawn was huge. You couldn't escape it. Like this comic book series that was out, people were talking about it everywhere. If you were in a nerd of any sort, you heard about this. And I had not read the comics. I'd seen them, and I'd owned some of the action figures I'd bought from like KB Toys, but I had never actually read the comics. And I saw they were doing an animated series on HBO, and I don't know, like I guess at this point, 97, nobody was monitoring what I was watching, so it didn't matter. But I tuned in, and when I say this is an adult cartoon, it's an adult cartoon. Like there's nudity, there's sex, there's gore, violence. This is definitely not made for kids. I would say it is as of right now, it is the definitive like film version of anything Spawn that we have, because the Spawn movie that came out, not great. The live action movie when was that? Like probably 99, 98, or probably around the same time. Yeah. Not very good. Certainly nothing like this. This really adapts the comics in a much more true way. And I would actually even argue in times darker than the comics. It's a really, really good series, especially if you like superhero stuff, but you kind of want to see that a little more edgy. Like if you like stuff like The Boys, and that has a lot more comedy than the Spawn does. But if you like that kind of hard edge, gritty take on superhero stuff, I think this would be a thing you would really enjoy. One of the things that I really drew away from this that I think really falls flat in the live action film is Clown. Clown in the animated series is scary and disgusting and like just really, really sinister. John Leguizamo was doing something with what he was doing, but it was very goofy and over the top, and like not in the same way that Clown comes off in the animated series. It was much more sinister. This is a really, really cool animated series. I think a lot of people probably haven't seen or probably don't even know about. So, highly recommend this if you haven't seen it. Check it out. Even if I choose it.
Unfortunately, this doesn't have any Blu-ray release, but I recently actually was in Walmart and they had this on DVD, the full season, for $10. So I bought it recently because for $10 you can't beat this show. It's absolutely worth that. Last week, actually not last week, like yesterday, I think, or maybe today, I saw a story about this where Todd McFarlane said in an interview this week that, I'll just read the quote. He says, "I don't know if I've ever said we were in the process of developing the return of the Spawn animation a while back, and then I got in a fight at the very end with the production and the lawyer, so I just bought it all back. So I actually have a 90-minute animated movie that's all been drawn minus the cells. All the voices have been done by Keith David and Mark Hamill. Everything, like we're ready. All we need is a little bit of Foley, which is sound effects and stuff, and then hand it to a studio, right? We're like, it's just been sitting in a box waiting to go. It's just been sitting there going, no, I think I need to get like the movie out. And then boom, once the movie comes out, if there's any success, then come out with that. But it's sitting there. So he has a full animated movie that's a return to this series with Keith David returning that he just has done and does not want to release until he gets a live action movie out.
So Todd McFarlane is responsible for some incredible comic books.
Amazing. And revolutionized toys.
Yeah, he revolutionized toys. He created Spawn. He did some of my favorite Spider-Man comics. Like, just a really, really talented artist and a talented business guy. I have questions about like the direction of like all this. He's been saying a lot of stuff. Now, I will say, I thought he's been talking about making a live action movie for a while. This new like King Spawn thing with what's his name, Jamie Foxx.
Yeah,
he's been talking about that for a while, and I thought it was all made up because he would talk about it, and years would go by, and like you'd hear nothing. I will say that recently they showed set pictures from it, so it looks like it is being done, like it is a thing that's happening. So I don't know. Maybe it will be cool. Maybe I wish he'd put this animated movie out. Like, I mean, even if he's
Same.
not going to
That's
do
what I'm
live
saying.
action,
I
I'd
want to see
rather
that
see
movie.
that. It's kind of crazy that he's got all that work done, and like
Because Keith David's voice is Spawn to me in my mind.
right.
Yeah, it is.
After you've seen this, it's kind of like
forever.
Kevin Conroy's Batman, Mark Hamill's the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think this is one. Like I said, I think a lot of people probably, especially younger, probably don't even know the thing. Because it's probably not easy to get your hands on in terms of like streaming. I don't know if is it on. Does anybody happen to know Max streaming on
I
Max?
doubt it.
I doubt it.
I'd be surprised if it was.
Well,
But like I said, it is easy to pick up at Walmart. I think it's pretty common. You can just go
I
on Walmart
would
and buy
put
the whole
money
series for
down.
$10.
If you Google it, you'll probably find it somewhere. Like
YouTube.
it might be on those places. You never know.
Oh
Yeah, I
shit!
bet
It is on HBO Go. I lied.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
on.
it
Well,
is.
there you go. So you can watch it streaming now.
Yeah, and it might be better quality than the DVDs. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
I just like to have the DVDs because I want to have them forever.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. For sure. Well, all right, guys. Thank you for joining us for another installment of our televised terror. We will be coming back to you guys next week. I think next week we're actually going to talk about a book that we have read called. That's right? We're doing that, right? We're doing The Troop.
The Troop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to cover Nick Cutter's The Troop as a novel next week. And then we're hoping to have, following that, we're either going to have a guest coming on soon. We're working on another guest for you guys. And of course, we'll have more following up with our televised terror and a couple other segments that we've kind of let languish for a while. We're working on a lot of stuff. We got a big spooky season planned for you guys. It'll be kicking off in September and going pretty hard September through October. We have a lot of really special things in store for you. So please keep listening to us, keep downloading the show, tell all your friends, like share this wherever you can. You can find us on social media. I am Jeff at Scream Signal, or Jeff Scream Signal. Jeremy is Jeremy Scream Signal. George is George Scream Signal, all on Instagram. We're also at the Scream Signal Network on Facebook. And I want to say by next episode, I'd like us, we're going to have a Discord server set up. That'll be kind of a general, like you guys can pop in and we'll pop in from time to time and, kind of try to cultivate a little bit of community. And probably sometime by the end of the year next year, we'll probably try to launch something in terms of a Patreon where you guys can get like a special access to listen to us record episodes and things along that line. We're working on all that stuff. So that stuff's in the background. We're working on it. I don't think we've forgotten about you guys. So yeah, thanks for sticking with us, and we hope that you stay spooky, and we'll see you on the other side. Good night, guys.
Later, everybody.